Hello and welcome to this video where I'm going to talk to you about Chinese medicine as a combination with medical astrology. Now, I'm a practitioner of Chinese medicine and traditional astrology, and I love to combine these two together because they both contribute so much information and so much depth that is very helpful for people who might be ill or might be trying to use preventative medicine to stay well. So if that's you and you're curious, you can find out more on my website, which is queenofheartsastrology.com. You're also welcome to email me at hello@queenofheartsastrology.com. I'm happy to answer your questions and help to direct you, whether I think I can help you or not, or perhaps, always refer you on to someone else if it's a specifically challenging situation. But yeah, I do work with all kinds of different diseases and conditions and people from all over the world, not just in person, but via Zoom. And I can provide a number of different treatment modalities, which I'm going to discuss in this video. Now, if you want a quick snippet, you can go to my Insta page, which is Queen of Hearts Astrology, where I just give you like a 1.5 minute wrap about this. But if you've got the time, I suggest you tune in. So I'm going to start by talking about the medical astrology charts and the ones that I use and how I use them. And then I'm going to filter in a bit of Chinese medicine and sort of combine it like that. So medical astrology is amazing. Now, doctors have been using medical astrology all through Renaissance. Like back in the day, we had like famous medical astrologers like Culpeper, who wrote a book that's still in publication, The Complete Herbal. Now, this is not that well known, but like most medical doctors were using astrology. So they would take a urine sample and then they would cast a chart, and that chart would show the development of the disease. It would show what types of organs are affected. Is it hot or cold or wet or dry, and what kind of humoral analysis is going on here. Now, humors are about fluid metabolism. So don't be mistaken by thinking that this is a new idea. Medical astrology or astrology has been used in medicine for centuries. Okay. Now, I'm really loving using it in my medicine because I'm using Chinese medicine. Now, the charts that I will use predominantly when I start a session is I will always look at the natal birth chart. Now, it depends what that person's coming in for. If they just want to be supported, they just want to be really, say they're a really healthy person and they just want to kind of be optimal and they want to be supported constitutionally, then I might choose that birth chart. If there's no particular pathogens or whatever, I might work with that birth chart and support the constitution. And likely, if they've got no problems, they probably have a relatively strong constitution. Now, if they have constitutional problems as well, or they have conditions that are passed down in the family, then I also might use that constitutional birth chart. If somebody comes to me and they're ill, I would likely try and isolate the year when that happened first. Or if they had a specific date and time when it happened, even better, because I would cast a chart called a decumbiture chart, which is a chart of an illness. So recorded at the time, which is preferable, of when that illness was first noticed. So that's an incredible chart, and that provides a lot of insight as to what particular organ systems are involved, and as well as things like the duration, the prognosis, and some clues to treatment. So having a decumbiture chart or having a solar return chart, which is the chart that is cast each year, the time when the sun returns back to your natal place, so the same degree as it was when you were born, that chart brings a bunch of additional, fresh, new indications for that year ahead. Now, sometimes those indications are really healthy and awesome, and sometimes they bring problems with them. So looking ahead at your solar return chart is another way to work with medical astrology, and something else I do in my clinic to see what the year ahead looks like. What do we need to do to fortify you to keep you well? And if you're working with a disease at the moment, or if you're working to kind of overcome something, we can actually use that chart to see, okay, is this going to be getting better? What organ systems, what kind of what meridians will we use? We can, I do a number of different overlays that I've learned where we overlay meridian systems over the chart, and we can use all kinds of different points if we have acupuncture as one of our treatment options. And the same goes for herbs. So it's wild, but we have herbs that connect with different planets. So we can actually select planets that actually will help to strengthen the constitution. We can select herbs from planets that actually help to reduce the disease. So they can be used together. Now, as far as medical astrology charts go, I would also consider the effect of planets by transit and the effect of planets that show up as time lords. Now, time lords, these are kind of a series of different techniques where different planets take the lead, and they're a little bit stronger that year, or a lot stronger sometimes. So if we know what planets are strong and we see the solar return chart, and say, for example, Mars was really strong that year, it was activated, say by profection, which is a timing technique. Mars was activated and it can bring heat and toxicity, it can bring inflammation. Say it was in the first house, that relates to you, your body, your health. And so we would say, okay, watch out. The first house is also the head. So watch out for head injuries, watch out for cuts and burns. Slow down when you're driving. You know, there's a number of different herbal formulations we could provide, dietary suggestions that we might suggest. So it's multi-layered, the approach. But the way that I usually treat with Chinese medicine is I will look and I'll say, okay, what is the planet that is describing the illness? Or what is the planet that is describing the constitutional strength? So I'm either going to be strengthening the constitution by applying something called a similitude. So I'm going to kind of give more of that if that's working well for the person. So let me give you an example. I have Aquarius rising. Saturn is my planetary ruler, and I take frankincense tincture relatively regularly. Now, frankincense is a herb of Saturn, and I love it. It works really well for me, and I have it as a similitude. So it's a herb of Saturn treating a Saturn person. Okay. Now, conversely, my sixth house, which is the house that is connected to illness, is ruled by the moon. Now, the moon is in Scorpio, which is a cold and wet phlegmatic sign. And so cold and wet signs, if we're using something which is called antipathy, which is opposing the sixth house or opposing the problem, we are actually going to use an opposite. And so because we've got a cold and wet pathogen, effectively, like a damp pathogen, we're going to warm it up. Okay, so we could actually use hot and dry. So I might use Mars, for example. And Mars is actually kind of a good one for me because on my 10th house cusp, I have Mars. And the 10th house cusp is the house of the treatment. Okay, so when we're looking at this as a whole, and then I can be like, oh, that's interesting. If the hot and dry is actually going to benefit me, maybe if dampness or whatever flares up for me, maybe I should go take a sauna. That could be a treatment method for me. Now, as a Saturnian person who, actually Saturn is cold and dry, if I have too many saunas, I'm probably going to dry myself out. So that's not going to be strengthening my constitution, but that's going to be opposing the disease. So having this clear and working through this, and another thing we could do, is I could prescribe, say I'm treating myself, I could prescribe myself with some herbs, which will clear cold dampness from the lower body, okay? Because Scorpio governs like the lower jiao, or like the sexual organs, okay, reproductive organs. I might want to have a formulation that's going to clear cold from the womb. That's a great Chinese herbal formula. And we would use that to get rid of any pathological fluids and help regulate menstruation, all that. So this is just one way, but we get the clue. We get the clue from the chart that says, this is the area of the body that could have a problem, and the problem could be cold and wet. Whereas other people, for example, one of my clients the other day had a sixth house ruler that was cold and dry. Okay, it was Mars in Virgo. And I see this quite a lot. It can suggest binding of the intestines, like stools that are not moving, constipation, due to dryness. And so the opposite is necessary. To actually fix that, we need to moisten. Is it connected to what we would call in Chinese medicine yin deficiency? Is it a fluid deficiency, which is also akin to yin? So we can give certain dietary protocols. So we've actually increased foods like avocado. We're making sure this person's drinking enough water. They're not having coffee, which is going to be hot and dry. So they're avoiding too many dry foods, not having too many dry crackers, having more sort of soups and steamed foods. Okay, things that are going to be a little bit more cold or a little bit more cool and wet, but not because it's in a cold and dry sign. We also need a little bit of warm to mobilize. Okay, so that's why we want it to be these warm soups. Okay, it's not delivered out of the fridge or cold like Chinese medicine hates that. So I work with you with your chart. I work with the Chinese medicine diagnostics. Okay, so I use, depending on whether you're with me or not, if you're with me, I will take your pulse. Okay, pulse is taken at the radial artery. It is diagnostic, and each position of the pulse, so it's three fingers, but there is so much information into the condition of the organs, into the different channels. And there's more than just 12 primary channels. These days I'm working with the complement system of advanced acupuncture, which I'm really loving. And this has got, an extra, I don't know, it's like 30, 35, 40 channels. And this is just amazing, because I can treat deeper conditions. And the whole purpose of this complementary channel, these channel systems, is to actually siphon toxicity and illness out of the primary channels to keep us alive. So I love working with this classical acupuncture. I love working with this ancient and traditional astrology. Like, I love these old school things. So I use the pulse as a diagnostic. I use observation. So I look at the color of your skin. I look at your eyes. I look at your tongue. So even if you're not with me, you take a picture of your tongue and I will look at that in a diagnostic way. And I know that's weird, but it's amazing because I can look at the coat to see, I can see if there's any dampness or phlegm or mucus in the body. Is there dryness? Are there cracks? Have we got yin deficiency in the body? Is the color really red? This indicates heat in the body. Is it blue or white? Is it cold? And so I'm looking at that and I'm putting it together with the chart and I'm saying, oh yeah, this person has got cold in that digestion, they've got constipation, things are not moving. And then I look at their tongue and the tongue is like, blue, cold. There's cold stagnation there. So that's validating it and I'm getting a clear idea of what the treatment is. So this is how it works together. And then as far as making suggestions for helping you, if you're with me, I can do acupuncture. I can do cupping, I can do moxibustion, I can do massage. Now, if you're not with me, don't despair because I can do herbal medicine, whether it means I can write you a formulation and have it sent to you, or I can make you a prescription, you can have it filled by someone close to you. But I'm going to use the same principles when I'm writing that formula. I'm going to select herbs that are going to work for your unique type and for you know exactly what is going on with you at the time. And so herbs is one way. The other way that I really love is to do dietary therapy. So Chinese medicine has got its own method of dietary therapy, which I totally love. And it's very much based around the thermal natures of foods and the concept of foods entering into different meridians. So just like herbs do, herbs don't just enter different meridians, but so do foods. So each of our herbs, when we're prescribing them, they might go into the heart channel, they might go into the liver channel. Same for foods. And so, herbs have got planetary correspondences. They've got, so it's amazing. It gets complex, but it's amazing. So I can say, hey, you need a food which is going to moisten dryness. You need a food that's going to work on the intestines. You need a food that's high in fiber. Now, I have studied Western nutrition as well, like in a postgraduate way. So I understand those methods and I use them a little bit. But I predominantly prefer the Chinese medicine stuff because it is specific for each person. It is not a one-size-fits-all approach. It is very much based around your unique internal landscape, and everyone is different. Some people are like an oasis. They've got majority dry and like a little bit of dampness somewhere. Some people are like just arid, like dry. Other people are like marshland, swampy, you know, and based on the changing planetary conditions, our environments can change every time. So it's really good to keep an eye on those solar returns, keep an eye on the transits, keep an eye on those time lords. And I mean, if you don't know this stuff, that's why it's good to consult with an astrologer who does, because it's a lot to keep an eye on. But yeah, and it's fantastic as far as helping people to pick suitable dietary options. So again, just like herbs, we can pick foods that support the constitution. We can pick foods which actually heal the areas that are at risk of becoming diseased before they become diseased. So let me give you an example. Say, for example, we have Venus on the 6th house cusp in Taurus. Now, Venus is often connects with conditions connected to blood sugar, and Venus in Taurus is frequently involved in thyroid conditions. If I see this in your chart, I will firstly say, okay, I suggest you go and get a blood test and check out your thyroid levels. I will also suggest that you stabilize your blood sugar levels and give you ideas about how to do so. Because it's textbook. It's not just like that I'm theorizing. I'm seeing this again and again with clients. Like I'll say, oh, have you checked your thyroid? And they say, oh yeah, I've got like hypothyroidism or hypothyroidism. And it's very detectable by looking at these charts a lot of the time. So we can work together. We can use some of these modern investigations to check the levels so that we can see how our work is going. And we can use food as medicine. As well as lifestyle, it's a big deal, okay? Chinese medicine is really interested in the way that we live. And so I can give you some tips about all kinds of weird and wonderful things, you know, whether it's like sleeping patterns, you know, they've got theories around what sort of times are good to go to bed. If you're trying to become pregnant, for example, you want to boost your fertility, you were going to need to nourish the yin in your body, you know, or say, for example, you're a student and you want to have a really great memory. So we're going to work on different things for you. So everything is specialized and individualized for you. I could talk about this all day, but I think that pretty much covers it. The sessions are online or in person, and they're designed for you. So if you've got any questions, please come and ask me on one of these mediums. Please share this video if you found it interesting, and I will be back again soon for more.